Hello? Hello? Speak? Can you speak? What is going on? Can you not speak? Can you speak? This is really embarrassing. Is 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 there nothing? He says he has no permission to speak in the channel. Okay, let me unmute him. There you go.
That your chat's been putting forward.
Okay, let's hear it.
Well, it's just we were sort of having a bit of talk around, just different political stuff, and I think I brought up something about just sort of like ecology being part of my thought, and they were spamming all the soy emotes and everything. Um, I just personally think it's all the science shows that we're sort of leading towards another extinction sort of event. There's going to be weather disaster, specifically in the global south, where a lot of the industry is being forced out to, um, in places like China, where it's being
So
exploited by the West.
so first of all, the global south is a meaningless word. Okay, it just doesn't refer to anything. Especially when you're including China with that, it's like
I'd say the impoverished
okay,
Chinese.
but here's the
Sorry.
problem, right? The key to poverty alleviation, and this is true, is industrialization. Without these countries being able to industrialize and develop national industries, they're going to remain poor.
Okay, I'm not wanting to come across as too paranoid here, but doesn't it seem a bit strange when you sort of see that the only way for these socializing countries to save themselves is to sort of become these, and I'm not saying that I view them this way, but become these in a Western sense villains in an ecological sense that we're all destroying the planet, but now people say, look at China.
Yeah, yeah,
They
but
put the most carbon out.
right, but the reason that they appear as villains is because Westerners are actually the only ones who possess the fanatical and bizarre views about the environment that they do. I mean, other
Do you not
countries
think as well?
prioritize human centered development and the welfare of people over animals. I mean, for example, in non-Western countries, people don't believe animals can have rights. They think it's a stupid and ridiculous idea. But Westerners see the way animals are treated in foreign countries, and they think, oh, they're villains. But well, it's not that they're villains. Just the West has a very strange view of the relationship between humanity and the world.
Sure, and I understand this. I think I sort of view, obviously not exactly the same, but I do think the West takes this almost, it's almost like a savior stance in a lot of cases. We promote like excessive veganism and excessive sort of like promoting the public to take ecological measures. But in this sense, it's more the science is pointing towards the the way that weather is shifting and the way that the climate is increasing in its temperature. This is going to be something which affects not just animals, not just the environment, but humans in every level. Like we've seen the floods
Yeah, I'm not
in Central
denying
Europe.
there's climate change and that it's going to affect a lot of different things. But my only question for you is, I remember 10 years ago when there was climate people saying, "Oh, in 10 years it's going to be the end of the world." I mean, when these predictions seem like they never actually come true.
Well, this is because personally, from my understanding of the topic, it's because people often misunderstand how climate and weather interact with one another, and the climate is something a lot harder to to measure, whereas weather patterns in relation to climate are a lot easier to measure. So
Yeah.
if the climate becomes a lot warmer, we know how that's going to affect the weather. What we don't know is when are our carbon emissions going to make the climate warm, as warm as it's
I
going to get.
think it's. I mean, we clearly can observe heating, that the world is warming, right?
Mhm.
It's very easy to observe. I just don't think we have a really full understanding of the atmosphere, and how that relates to the weather. I think people overestimate how much scientists understand this and how it relates to environments. I mean, here's what we can know for certain. We just don't know, right? So if we don't know, we
Mhm.
can assume that environments rely upon the weather in ways we probably take for granted. Um,
True, and I
Hold
think
on.
this also ties.
Wait. There's someone in my chat. Vile
Right.
said it's not necessarily true. The indigenous peoples of America are among the people who care most about the environment. That is the biggest lie I've ever heard. Did you know that Indian reservations, and that's what they prefer to be called, by the way, literally petition the government to be able to drill their own land and extract oil? So
Sure. Actually,
that's
can I
a
just
very kind
if
of
I could add a point to
condescending.
this as
Yeah.
well? When it comes to indigenous, a lot of the misunderstanding is, for instance, in Canada, it's more that they want their land to themselves. They don't care much about the environment. They just want to use that land for their own practices.
Yeah.
It's more about sort of like a they don't want more land taken out of their jurisdiction than it is about, oh, these people, they're so tied to nature and they love the environment. That's a liberal bullshit.
Yeah.
Um, what I was going to say was the way that humans can study and learn about the climate. For instance, one big thing is China is actually coming quite close in a relationship to my country, Scotland. Um, and my country is sort of forwarding green energy. We've always uh, relied on sort of tidal energy and wind energy. And like my city has a really big oil sector, so we do contribute to carbon emissions into to fossil fuels as well. But I think if countries like China were willing to sort of take these smaller countries into account and see how we're pushing forward this, I wouldn't say my country's socialist, but we're a lot more um populist than I guess most uh, well, especially England and like Germany and stuff like that, and see how like our countries as a populist movement are aiming towards focusing on more care for the environment, and sort of a more international collaboration instead of this war mentality of like China and their industry
Yeah,
against
I
the
just
West and their
think
industry.
Westerners need to take into account of how much they take for granted when it comes to their priorities. You have to understand that most of the world like needs development very desperately, and it is the primary. Like, if you live in a developing country, right, you will not have a shot in politics if you don't have some kind of. It's all about development. I mean, it's the primary goal is to engage in modernization, poverty alleviation, and affording the world's people a kind of a minimal standard of living. So that's the top priority as far as they're concerned.
It's all it is a well, in our current society, it's a necessary step. But I think it's something we should definitely look to revolutionize alongside other. China especially focuses on revolutionizing technology. I think if they look towards revolutionizing energy consumption and the production of
They are. They're
energy
pursuing.
resources,
Here's the thing. There's so many different things. That's really why I don't really like the term climate change. I don't, because it assumes you can just respond to the climate changing, and you can't. What you can do, though, is you can engage in intensive and local policies and things to mitigate the effects of what it appears to be an inevitable climate change. Something concrete you can deal with is pollution, the way pollution harms this quality of living for people. That's something you can tackle. You can tackle as far as a globe, the changes that are happening at the global level, I don't think you can actually reverse those. Now, let me tell you something. Right now, the Arctic is melting. We know that, right? But because it's
yeah.
melting, there are so many minerals and resources that are ripe for exploitation, including fossil fuels and oil. Russia, America, China are all going to pursue these, and this will be a great accelerator of global development. Will it lead to an accelerated level of climate change? Yes, but ultimately humanity will have to adjust to this new type of world.
Sure, I guess like if we can put this almost, if we return to, I don't know, personally I'm more of a Hegelian than a Marxist, but if we turn to a dialectical look at it, I guess there's this sort of thesis and antithesis. There's this war and resource effort when it comes to the changing climate, and then the antithesis to that would be a more collectivizing and learning about how we're all affecting the climate, and you know maybe coming together, not as governments, but as
I think this
populations
is a
and
kind
people.
of Western perspective. I don't think that level of abstraction, that like we, as in like the people of the globe, right? I don't think that
I mean more just
as
like
a
there
subject.
are all there's already
Let me tell you
commitments.
the
We can
truth.
we
The
can
truth. The
yeah.
truth is there is no planet. There's no such thing as the planet.
This sounds like Thatcher's quote. She says there's no such thing as society, only people and their
She was
families.
right, actually, in a way, that there's no
I
society.
don't
But
believe so. I
she
think we
was,
can
in a
form
sense, she was right.
societies.
In a sense, she was right, because what Thatcher's a good Hegelian, because there is no society. Society is a determinate, takes only a determinate form. Hegel would say something like, society is a determinate dialectic between the state and then the civil society and so on. But society as such doesn't really exist. Society, for example, can be Prussian society, can be this or that, but society as such does not really have an existence.
I
Uh,
think if we are taking this sort of
yeah, but let
German
me finish my
idealist
point
view,
about the
okay,
planet not
okay, sure.
existing. Let me finish my point about the planet not existing. So,
Sure,
what we are calling the planet, right? The planet is a tiny sliver of the surface on Earth, correct? That's what we're referring to. No one's referring to the core, and
yeah, oh yeah, yeah. Like
we haven't
the
dug down.
outer,
We don't
yeah.
even know what's down there. We haven't really dug down very far. We don't really know what's in our oceans. So I think you need to narrow in your perspective. When people are talking about the planet, they are talking about the habitable spaces that we know of on Earth for people, for humans. That's the planet. And all of the things we know that depends on thereof. With climate change, there's going to be an increasingly developed science of human habitability, creating spaces and environments that people can live in, that can sustain life. I see climate change as, in a sense, a way of kind of deterritorializing this thing called the planet. What I mean by that is that instead of having this lazy view of a planet, we begin to really interrogate the science of how, through geological and ecological processes, what we have as this habitable world is possible. In the same way we have a science of agriculture, in the same way we have a science of growing different plant species and farming and so on, we will have a science of growing human habitable spaces.
Well, yeah, I understand like the way that it's almost like adapting to the
Yeah,
changes in the
precisely.
future.
Yeah.
But
Adapting
I think
and no
when
longer
yeah,
no longer taking for granted the natural premises of habitability. We don't take it. So things like the weather,
yeah,
I'm not saying we will fully control or fully master it. I'm just saying we will adapt to it. We will have a
I know.
way of no longer taking, and it's just same thing as agriculture.
I think I'm gonna go after this next point, but I think this is if I could put one more thing in, this is really interesting. In Siberia, I don't know if you've seen that. Sorry, they're sort of echoing on your end. It's a bit distracting. Actually, I'll turn down like the volume a little bit.
No, it's okay.
In
I'll
Si
just remute my mic.
in Siberia, some of the permafrost has been melting. You know that we've seen some of the highest temperatures in Siberia as of recent, and with the permafrost melting, they've been finding these almost like explosions of land, or there's this massive expansion, and it creates craters in the ground, and it's getting quite. I wouldn't say close, but it is around the areas where you might find, uh, you know, land which is maybe not being settled on by indigenous people, but it's definitely land that people would be traveling through, or you would find people even visiting, as part of their just if they want to visit another part of the region that they live in. And I think these are things obviously that we can't control. We don't know how to get down and to stop permafrost melting. It's something that's just going to happen. Um, but one thing I think we can do is we can look at it sort of indiscriminatorily, take an indiscriminate view uh, of even the most far off regions of the world. And this is maybe from a Western perspective, but the regions that people don't really think about, like Siberia, some people might not even know there's indigenous people living in Siberia. Um, and we can sort of take a view of these regions and see them as no different to, flooding in Central Europe or
Yeah, but
typhoons in
the
East
problem
Asia.
is that it's kind of this universalism is not sustainable because there is an objective fact of different states, different geopolitics, and I think one of the reasons I think ecologism, it's not the same as ecology. Maybe we call it ecologism, is an extension of kind of unipolar American imperialism, is because it has this hard scientific realistic look at the world's geography, right? And the natural world. And it's no borders. It sees all of this as part of, like, you look from space, oh, there are no borders from space, right? But this is an encroachment upon the sovereignty and self-determination of states for which these are actual territories that they belong to the people living in those states. It's not, we don't live in a world that belongs to quote unquote everyone, because if the world belongs to everyone, it really means it belongs to America. America.
Sure. Well, I'm going to go now. I think this has been a really good conversation. It's obviously I didn't expect to come into this speaking to sort of a bad faith, Destiny or sort of someone like that, one of those sorts of figures. Um,
Okay.
so
One
it's
other
been a great
thing. So I
conversation.
was told that the reason you were put in quarantine is because there was like some creepy stuff.
I don't know. I was just sort of trolling because some people were being. I wouldn't say they were being a transphobic. They were just being a trad larpers. But I can sit back on the trolling a little bit.
What do you mean trad larpers?
I don't know, they were just acting weird, you know. I personally, I would say they were breaking the sixth rule because they were like spamming me with some shit that, you know. I try not to take things too seriously, but I can, I can put my serious
Yeah,
face on
don't
when I'm
share
in the.
disgusting shit. Okay, don't be sharing disgusting shit. You know, it's like like I said, it's one of those things. It's like I don't know. We have a lot of non-Western people in our Discord, so people are more conservative. You know, it's not like Vosh or BreadTube Discord where we're gonna be sharing a bunch of nasty, sexual shit.
Okay, sure, I get what you mean. Right. Anyway, peace.
Okay, bye.